you can also get us very well.
Absolutely, I can hear you very well. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So we are going to request someone to volunteer with a word of prayer. Then we get started right away. So we can have a volunteer say a word of prayer. Then we have a slight piece of entertainment. We get started. Over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Let's believe and pray. Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we thank you for this morning. We thank you for the CEIL Summit that we are all gathered here today. We thank you for the institutions and all the individuals who are represented here. Even as we proceed with the deliberations concerning the commercialization of innovations, we pray that you may guide us and help us. We thank you for life and we thank you for health. As we start, we pray that you may also start with us. For we pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ.
Amen. Asante sana, nashukuru. So we will have a very quick piece of entertainment. So Bombolulu dancers, tafadhali tujongee mbele, mtu entertain kidogo. So for the purposes of the audiences joining us online, you can also shake a leg or two, ndio tukue pamoja. Asante, asante, asante sana, asante sana, asante sana. Asante, asante sana, asante sana, asante sana, asante sana. Hey. Makofi, 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 makofi jamani. Makofi jamani, makofi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Asante sana, asante sana. Makofi ya Bombolulu dancers na pia kwetu sisi sote. Thank you so much, Dr. Mwansa, for setting pace for what will happen this evening. Asante sana. So, Daktari Kevit Desai, I know you would have wished to be here, but we've done justice. We've represented you very well. So very quickly, I want us to do a quick round of introductions. A quick round of recap of what happened yesterday. So tafadhali tunawashukuru sana, mnaweza ondoka. Asante. So very quickly, yesterday we were privileged to have the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, together with the PS Youth Affairs and also PS Higher Education and Research. And we were also able to engage in various discussions around elements of commercialization, entrepreneurship, and startup support. So I recall one of the most intriguing sessions was around the creation of an enabling environment and frameworks for startups to thrive from institutions of higher learning. And we had innovators from universities present about their startup journeys. And after that, we also had a very interesting session, very insightful and thought-provoking session on how we can change the systems in our higher education institutions to support entrepreneurship from researchers at the level of students and also those who are professors. And we also had another breakout session yesterday where we talked about how to strengthen commercialization of innovations through support directly geared to the institutions. We talked about issues of infrastructure, we talked about issues of the systems, structures, and what came out across all sessions was the need for collaboration. And through the session that Yvonne Jerry took us through, we were able to get key learning points from the private sector when it comes to commercialization of innovation. That points to market survey to ensure our products are market fit, business know-how, which is very important. So let's not do this alone. We need business experts to do this. We also need to get a very good understanding of intellectual property. We need to collaborate and we need to be able to innovate in an agile way. So I think those are some of the key takeaways from yesterday's sessions. So we also had Pamela who talked about how we can best turn our ideas into innovations through collaboration. And the key point for me was that we need to expose ourselves to diverse ideas, because any idea can be turned into research, which would then translate into an output that can be commercialized. So very quickly, I want us to get to know a few things that are important for all of us just before we get started. First thing is that we have the washrooms on your right. As you exit on your right, then take a left turn. You'll be able to see all washrooms labeled for the gents, for the ladies, and also for people with disabilities. There is a dedicated washroom for you. I also ensure all connected, and you can log into the hotel Wi-Fi, which is Pride in Wi-Fi. The password is Paradise 2023, everything lowercase. And we are also heavily present on social media. So kindly let's keep the conversation going on social media. Ensure you tag at Kenya Updates, at Kenya Innovation Week. Also tag our partners, the British Council, the UK government at UK in Kenya, the Lemelson Foundation, Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, and also the Ministry of education. So sincere gratitude to all the partners who've joined us. And as we get started, I want you to remember that at the end of this summit, we'll be awarding 3 key people who are doing the best to the innovation ecosystem, and that is the entrepreneurial vice chancellor of the year. At some point, we'll have pitches, and we'll also be voting for the best pitch. We will also be voting, actually we will not be voting, we will just directly award. So I'm holding this as a surprise, but we're going to award someone, an individual, who will make it to the list of the, I will spare that for later. So let's stay tuned and kindly ensure that you vote through the QR code and also the link that will continuously be displayed right here. And also on our desk, we have some QR code. You scan it and vote. So very quickly, I'm going to introduce our speaker for this morning. Dr. Kevin Subhash Desai is the Managing Director of Centurion Systems Limited. He's going to help us understand how we can bridge the gap between academia and industry to actually commercialize our innovations by closely to ensure that we are actually producing products that are actually in demand, and we work with the industry to ensure that we also are able to produce outputs out of the needs that come from the industry. So Dr. Kevin Desai, welcome. Here at the coast we say karibu sana. So over to you, Daktari.
Thank you very much. Indeed, I'm very excited to be with you this morning. And it was lovely to see all of you dance, and I hope that you dance this evening too, as well as you danced this morning. And I think that's a great thing about the coast. You know, if you were in Nairobi, you wouldn't be dancing so much. Ladies and gentlemen, indeed, I'd like to start from the onset by congratulating the organizers, in particular the Kenya National Innovation Agency. This is a profound step by way of bringing all of you leaders together, leaders in innovation, to promote the necessary dialogue. And a dialogue is necessary in terms of how we're able to fast track our pathways towards innovation and transformation. This is in view of the fact that various aspects exist. To start with, you know, what you have there today is a platform that is encouraging a culture of innovation. And I think that's rightly so, because of the dynamic environment we live in, where we have to face many different kinds of variables like climate change, inflation, issues with respect to food security. These are highly pertinent issues for the transformation of humanity, and therefore, you know, our collective dialogue that is occurring over there is absolutely critical. And so I do apologize for not being personally there present. It's because I have to put together a meeting today at the University of Nairobi on the same subject in terms of innovation ecosystems. I want us to reflect a little while we're at the coast, while we're together promoting the dialogue. Do we have a national ecosystem that promotes pathways to innovation, pathways to address dynamism? In part, we do, I think. I've been at this for the last 20 years through all the sessional papers, the policy environment, the various acts, and very much part of certain initiatives that have shown good examples of success in this area. Why I say this is that indeed there are 3 areas that come to my mind. The first is indeed the very acts of the Science, Technology, Innovation, the University Act, the Tibet Act, and so on. Those are hugely aligned to promoting capacity in a science, technology, innovation ecosystem. Let me refer you to the Science, Technology, Innovation Act, which for the first time promotes the necessary emphasis towards coordination, prioritization of research, but it's inclusive to all research actors, whether it's the private sector, universities, Tibets, and it's all gained towards finding ways in which we're able to promote the transformation on a social, economic, environmental prosperity. Let's see also the aspects that are now currently in place within the context of how the private sector, the labor market, the productive sector engages. We all know that behind the productive sector, there are three key issues. The first is how to enhance productivity, how to promote the necessary innovation and efficiency, and how to promote diversification. Every part of industry is linked and anchored to those three outcomes for its survival and prosperity. And so within that context, they've done fairly well by setting up several associations like the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, the Agricultural Sectoral Network Program, ASNET, all focused on seeing how they can promote the necessary involvement and enrich policies, legislations, regulations, standards, taxation elements, all with a view of enhancing their overall transformation. This is important. Their involvement and their investment since 2003 is incredible. It's accumulation of what exists within the context of our success today. But equally important is the necessity for greater levels of coordination. And fortunately, this is now being resolved and acted upon by a new policy called the National Policy for Research and Development. There, the issue of coordination will be absolutely critical and essential within the context of how we're able to promote the overall development of science, technology, innovation. Please return to the first slide, please. I'd also like to emphasize here that there are other incentives for us to take a far more collaborative approach. The fact that the East African community is at our borders. This means that we're the fourth largest market in the world, consisting of 300 million people. After India, China, United States comes the East African community, where we have a full open access to commerce, social issues, political issues, and so on. And this then creates markets within the context of how we're able to promote innovation. It's a value proposition of why we need to invent and why we need to develop. Please return to the first slide. This becomes absolutely critical within the context of how we promote our significance and how we nurture value addition as well as promote the necessary capacities within industry. Now, if I share the first slide with you, kindly return to the first slide. Thank you. Now, if you look at the first slide, not this slide, the first slide, please, then you'll see that this is a common innovation ecosystem landscape where we are focusing on several actors who need to collaborate together. We have the universities on the left-hand side, very critical that, we're able to create an ecosystem for them to not only teach, but to research. Far too much effort is being put on teaching. If you look to the left, to the right, we have made gains within the context of the TVET sector by promoting a policy called competency-based education and training. Innovation is based on promoting the necessary standards and training to standards that are measurable. So whatever is designed, both from a basic and an applied research perspective, has to be implemented. It cannot be implemented if standardization programs in education can't come together. Equally important is the fact that, we do need to address prosperity. If we're looking at issues pertaining climate change solutions for effective gains as far as food security is concerned, then, literally, we're looking at enhancing the productivity, efficiency, innovation, diversification of maize, wheat, rice, beans, potatoes, cabbage, sukuma wiki, dairy products, poultry. These are the key sectors that transformed. And we're looking at an aggregation, after all, we're approximately 50 million people, and therefore each person consumes around 2 kilos of vegetables a day, and that equates to around 100 million kilos of produce. And so it becomes absolutely essential that we are able to promote the necessary scale in terms of capacity, and this can only be achieved through a close collaboration between technical vocational training institutions, universities, and the private sector. This map emphasizes the need to enhance relationships between actors, to promote the necessary dialogue, what you are doing today, the essential requirements of creating agreements and cohesion towards bringing about research outcomes, and the fact that we have to live by the aspect of co-creation, because all the different stakeholders that you see in this slide promote diversity to a common means and a common end, and therefore the need to work together becomes absolutely critical. Equally important is our importance of each pillar promoting an interdisciplinary approach. If I'm looking at universities, how do we promote the faculties to work in an interdisciplinary approach? Please go to the next slide. On the next slide, you'll see an initiative that has taken place, and I'm extremely excited to talk to you today, all of you. This initiative really is the accumulation of the science, technology, innovation ecosystem, founded under CATIC, which is the Cantaria Agricultural Technology Innovation Center. It's the first initiative at a grand scale to be led by the private sector under a very noble and successful industrial group, Mr. Rajni Kantaria, and the foundation that he's created. Now, the efforts are to ensure that through collaboration that we're able to address climate smart technologies that would drive the solutions towards food security under the very values of and chains from an end-to-end ecosystem of several crops. And so if we're looking at maize, we're looking at an end-to-end ecosystem. And what are we trying to achieve? Based on the fact that much exists in terms of a platform, we're trying to focus certain actors like the private sector, the academia, the government, to look into a more refined approach as far as productivity, innovation, efficiency, and diversification of those value chains. And this becomes absolutely critical by way of ensuring that we not only promote the necessary technology, engineering outputs, and promote the necessary modernization in view of the very large quantities that are required as a nation and as a community, the East African community, but also that we're able to develop incubation and commercialization approaches and promote a community-led and engagement within the context of this development. And so this effort is indeed very exciting. I'd like to share this with you with the hope that you'll be able to join the sectoral councils. The sectoral councils on each of the value chains become absolutely critical. And this is an open invitation for any of you out there to join the innovation sectoral councils so that we're able to map out a closed structure between market and supply, guaranteeing pathways to enhance and facilitate innovation in science and technology. But it's also a call for all of you to commit to invest and to see how you're able to promote your leadership within your relevant institutions around this common area. Now, this is an open area and indeed common to all of us. I mentioned the details of the different sectors. I mentioned that, we are working towards a common effort towards food security, to addressing the climate change and why we need to act. And therefore, feel free to get in touch with me at any time. The organizers have my contacts. And I would like to put you into this program. We're looking at industrious individuals like yourself, individuals who have a profound leadership within sector. And through this, I believe that we'll be able to create a massive scale of innovation and technology transfer as well as science. Thank you very much, and now open to questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Desai, for that. So I'll now welcome Professor Nderango Kioni, who is a former Vice Chancellor of Dedan Kimathi University, to manage the Q&A quickly as we transition into the panel discussion. Thank you. So the microphone should be roaming by now. So over to you, Dr. Ray.
So thank you very much. We have a few minutes for questions and answers. And because of time, I will ask whoever would like to raise a question to raise up their hand. But as we do that, I would like to ask Dr. Kefi Desai to reflect on the following key issues as he answers the question that will come from the floor. And that's really, what do the universities and institutions need to do so as to enhance the partnership or the linkage that exists between them and the industry. And this time, we need to go to the level of commercialization of research outputs, to look at the issues of the kind of structures that we should have in the universities so as to be more effective in the partnership with the industry, such as technology transfer offices. And we raise this because we know that over the last many years, there is linkage that has emerged and developed to support student attachment, placement in the industry, and so on. But now we are going a notch higher, and we like to get to a point where we are able to do research for the industry, do contract research, do joint research with the industry, do joint publications with the industry, and do joint filing of patents in the industry. So we would like to, Dr. Desai, to reflect on that and tell us what is it that we can do to be able to get to that new level of partnership with the industry. So as he responds to that, I can receive one or two questions, which can also answer alongside what I have said.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Kioni. Indeed, you've been a huge stalwart and a long time stalwart in this field of innovation, and truly we cherish your leadership and your persistence within the context of finding solutions for our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to reflect, if you're from the academic sector or the private sector, please realize this, that the academic sector has very unique elements which are not accessible or available elsewhere. You know, they have the element of organized research. They have the tools, you know. They also have the ability to train and skill and educate, and they also have the fantastic ability to promote interdisciplinary activities. Now that is a profound resource, and what we must do, Dr. Kioni, is ensure that with this new policy of research and development, national research and development, that we effectively carve out time for lecturers and professors to navigate research, to promote research. But for that to happen, there's a need for the private sector to put a value proposition on the table. And that is why so much dialogue needs to take place. The private sector are exceptionally good at implementing diversification, productivity gains, innovation gains within their own value systems and value chains, which start from the market systems and those relationships that they've cultivated over time. So this is a winning combination, and why it's absolutely critical for us to not overburden one another, but simply come to the table around very thematic areas, like, for example, how do we improve the wheat value chain from an end-to-end ecosystem? How do we promote of outcomes for rice as a sector by way of ensuring that from seed to diversification we have ample capacity and linkages and fully integrated systems? All of this requires science, technology, and innovation. And so the need to promote this can only be done through a system and a decision that needs to be made today at this conference in Mombasa, in view of all the effort, the thought, the insights that's been shared. And one of the key decisions that must come out is that as stakeholders who are responsible for the innovation and science technology system, that we must decide to participate in sectoral councils that bring about thematic change around specific sectors, to promote the necessary dialogue, to set the standards, to set the requirements of policies, to set the requirements of regulation, to set the requirements of the necessary infrastructure, necessary competence, the necessary innovation, the necessary coordination capability. Until those sectoral councils that need to be formed around thematic areas don't have the weight to address these issues, then you'll have a disjointed system. And what we suffer from is greatly a fragmented system. Because as you said, Dr. Kiani, we have excellent examples of linkages between industry and academia. I can name one which really has been the story of Liwa within the context of how it transformed the aluminium industry. A factory in Thika, producing as a foundry, was able to share its techniques and skills to Jomo Kenyatta University Agriculture Technology, who developed a curriculum around aluminium foundry, who then made it accessible to the SME sector. And today, we have a thriving sector that focuses on aluminium industry and fixtures and capacities. Now, this is just one example, but one can name several examples of cooperation. We know that in the Tibet sector, we were able to write occupational standards on mechatronics, welding, and so on, in close participation with private sector and academia, thereby promoting access, equity, relevance of skills. So it is possible, but we need to do it more in order to scale the overall capacity of the potential, much needed capacity.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I pick from you a couple of things that we need to do. The aspect of creating sectors that address specific issues is very important, and that when we create these sectors, basically we are also breaking the silos, and we discussed quite a bit of that yesterday. So we need to identify that and create the teams that can help us achieve the kind of scale, the grad scale that we need to achieve for transformation of the country. There is also the issue of showcasing, and you have explained that, so that we can learn from the success stories. I'm just picking a few of the things that we have said, but I'm sure the Secretary has picked quite a number of others. And in that regard, we also have the Kenya Innovation Week, which is coming up. That's another opportunity for the kind of dialogue that Dr. Desai has actually proposed. So I think it's now for us to appreciate Dr. Desai for his contribution, and also for sharing with us his very vast experience in university industry linkages. So thank you very much, Dr. Desai. We now move to the next session, which is a panel discussion. And I will invite the panelists. We have one who will be participating virtually, Dr. Gray Kelly, an associate principal scientist at AstraZeneca. So the technical team should be making arrangement for that. Then we have Professor Emily Ashing Akuno, Vice Chancellor of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology. Then we have Mr. Ahmed Abdul Wahab, who is going to make a presentation on MasterCard Foundation and the work that he has done. in partnership with the next Arabia. Then we have Mr. Baibas Autunas. Please come and join us. He's executive chairman of World Business Angels Investment Forum. Karibu. And as they take their seats, I think it's important for me to introduce them properly. Dr. Greg Kelly. She's the director Open Innovation at AstraZeneca. We all know AstraZeneca. And she has a background in biological science with a specialization in cell biology. And she has a PhD from University of East Anglia. And a postdoctoral, and she did also postdoctoral work at the University of Cambridge. And now she's seeking new strategies. Yes, and seeking new strategies. She started working for AstraZeneca in 2015, and which is a large organization, and she was, the opportunity in such a large organization, I better read this one. The opportunity in such a large organization abroad, and in 2019, she joined the Emerging Innovation Team, firstly as a secondment and then as a permanent member in 2020 as part of Open Innovation Program. This role allows her the opportunity to bridge the gap between academia and industry, enabling and catalyzing innovative science. Professor Emily Ashing is a performer and educator from Nairobi, Kenya. She's a professor of music of the Technical University of Kenya. And Akuno she served as a Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs at the Cooperative University of Kenya. She is the President of the International Music Council and President-elect of the International Society for Music Education. She has interest in music teaching and learning, having served as a steward both locally and globally. She is a champion for music education for all, serving in prestigious positions with notable organizations such as IMC and ISME. Mr. Ahmed Abdul Wahab is an entrepreneurial leader with 20 years of international experience, conceptualizing ideas, seizing opportunities, building operations, leading successful new business development and entrepreneurship initiatives and startup ventures, and securing investor financing. He is a founder, CEO, and Chief Innovation Officer at the Next Arabia. I will read also the profile of Mr. Baibas Autunas, and I read it because it gives us a lot of information about the opportunities that he brings to this forum. He is a former senior advisor of the London Stock Exchange Group for the Elite Program, executive chairman of the World Business Angels Investment Forum, an affiliate partner of the G20 Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion, and that's chaired by the Queen Maxima of Netherlands. And he's the only entrepreneur to be granted a personal audience with President Obama at the Presidential Summit in Entrepreneurship in Washington, D.C. He was awarded a JCI ambassador following Ban Ki-moon. This is the former Secretary General of the United Nations. And he's a recipient of the European Trade Association of Business Angels Award for the best individual in Europe, globally engaging with the global entrepreneurial ecosystems in 2014. That's in Ireland, 2015 in Netherlands, 2016 in Portugal, 2017 in Spain, 2018 in Bulgaria. He's a co-author of Planet Entrepreneur, the World Entrepreneurship Forum's Guide to Business Success Around the World, published by Wille in 2013. He's author of Off the Bus, Into a Supercar, How I Became a Top TV Star and Celebrated Investor, which was published in 2015 and translated into many languages, including Chinese, Croatian, Albanian, and Macedonia. He is a star of the Turkish version of the television show Dragon's Den and Shark's Tank. And he's also been profiled by leading international media such as CNN, International, Bloomberg, and also BBC. So that's the background of our panelists. So I'll take my seat and then we can engage them in a number of questions. But as we do that, I just want to re-emphasize the focus of the presentation this morning is how do we move the university industry linkage. And that's basically, when we talk of university industry linkage, we're also extending it to the TVET because we have the TVET institutions here as well. How do we move that to the next level so that we can start achieving a measure of, as I said, contract research, commercialization of what is coming from the university, getting resources from the industry into the universities, and getting to a point where there is actually flow of information and flow of people and flow of resources across the university industry lines without any limitations. That's generally what we want to achieve. So the questions we are going to ask are basically geared towards achieving those objectives. Yeah. So we can start. I have done the introduction, so if there is something you would like to add about yourself, then you can add as we ask the questions. And I'll start with Ahmed here. And Ahmed is giving us the perspective. He's had these partnerships with a financing organization and the startup. So I would like to ask you, what are the barriers? What are the challenges you find when you have the kind of partnerships we are looking for, or when we want to introduce them? What kind of things should we be worried about, and how should we address them?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Putting it into the context of the topic, industry-academia relationship. So what you want to do is to find out what's the best way to really work together with the industry, just beyond the talk and beyond the general relationship, but really creating jobs. One of the biggest issues that we face here in Kenya is youth underemployment and youth unemployment. So in order to solve these specific pain points that we have, we look at the other side, the industry. What do they actually have? What kind of specific pain points do they have? Not just general challenges or innovation activities, but really bottom line issues that they have, that they would hire people, that they would hire either people to employment or hire them as a supplier, creating entrepreneurship opportunities. So we looked at both sides, so focus entirely what the market needs are, not from a theoretical point of view, but really specific needs that they have, and then looked for what kind of best talents do we have, looking at the universities as well as the TVETs, and some of the universities and TVETs are represented here, and identify the talents, and now we put them together and train them in order to facilitate, at the end of the day, real employment entrepreneurship activities. And we are doing this together with the MasterCard Foundation in the partnership.
Yeah. And now, Liz, we have vice chancellors here representing individual universities. If they were to come to MasterCard and craft a program that now can address the kind of problem that you have talked about, how should they go about that? Do they come as individual universities and craft a program just between the university and MasterCard? Or do they come as a team, a group of universities? Which is the best approach when somebody is working with MasterCard to address some of these issues?
So we are not MasterCard, but we are a partner. We're partnering with MasterCard. So from a university perspective, or in general, it's very important to always focus on really impact. It's really about impact. So when we talk about, for example, commercialization and innovation, entrepreneurship, these are not goals. These are means to go somewhere. And the goal should be economic development. And that's always the impact level. And so coming back to your question, when you go to these institutions, it's very important to focus on what is the specific impact that we want to generate. Yeah? And that's the key thing. What's the impact? Is it creating jobs? Is it creating companies, startup opportunities? Is it solving industry pain points through research, for example? But that research becomes solution for the industry. Yeah? And that's what I think probably we're going to talk about, some of the key communication barriers. From the institution side, we talk about research funding, and from the industry side, they never talk about it. They talk about how can you help me to increase the revenues, reduce the cost, increase the efficiency, reduce the risk, etc. So that's a thing that we need to more leverage within an institution. Understanding how the industry really thinks and works.
So the starting point should be discussion with industry first before going to look for the solutions in the university. Then you can align the expectations.
Yeah, understanding what is the pain point that we want to solve.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. What's the bottom line impact that we want to create?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how does that apply to Asia investment?
Yes, thank you, dear Professor. Professor, let's assume that we are in 1950. So this event is organized in 1950, and we are here to talk about, I think we would not talk about innovation if we would be in 1950. And I think the agency's name would be Kenya National Invention Agency, not Innovation Agency. Mm-hmm. That time, or the Presidential Innovation Award will be Presidential Inventors or Invention Award. Why? Because 1950s, 60s were the times of invention. Inventors were very important. Anything invented had a ready customer in the market. Customer was ready to consume anything invented. That was the case. But today, this is not the case. Today, innovation that counts. Why? Because almost everything invented, and customer doesn't need everything, and you have to find the language to communicate with the customer. That was not the case 50 years ago. You didn't need a set of skills like entrepreneurial skills to carry your products to the market, because customer was ready to consume it. But today, you need a set of skills to commercialize your invention, to carry it to the market. If you cannot do it, then it only shows that you are a good inventor, you are an intelligent guy, but you are not an important person for the economy. Mm-hmm. You are an important person, inventor for the economy, if you can convert your invention to innovation. Governments around the world now are supporting innovation, not invention. Why? Because innovation is bringing new jobs, new wealth, and new taxes, naturally. So, who will convert invention to innovation? Who is the main catalyzer in this process? Entrepreneurs. But sometimes we say entrepreneur, Sometimes we say startup. So I think it will be good to clarify this difference. Let's say this mobile telephone, and you are establishing a company to sell mobile telephone. And you are dreaming your granddaughter, grandson will also make the same business. And they will also make the same profit like you as long as they live. You are a traditional business owner. You are an entrepreneur. You are not dreaming to make an exit in the next 5 to 7 years. You are dreaming even your granddaughters make the same business. Let's take another profile. Another entrepreneur has a different business model. He wants to make business by selling telephone, but in his business model, he is also dreaming to make an exit in the next 5 to 7 years. He's not dreaming his granddaughter, grandson will do the same business. This is startup. Startups are the smart entrepreneurs, non-traditional business owners, and generally in the mobile application and IT industry. So in this process, unfortunately, the challenging part of this story for entrepreneurs is today access to finance problem. Yeah. So access to, as a matter of fact, which kind of finance? Access to smart finance. Because they need more than finance to compete in the global landscape. They need mentorship, they need know-how, and they need also networking. So as a matter of fact, smart finance is a bundle of money, network, mentorship, and know-how. From ICO to IPO, there are different sources of finance available for entrepreneurs today. Crowdfunding platforms, wealth management institutions, government grants, angel investors, banks, VCs, etc., and stock exchange IPOs. But angel investors are different than others. Angel investors are the only source of finance putting more than money. They are putting smart money that entrepreneurs and startups need. Last year in Europe, 320,000 angel investors invested 9.6 billion euro in startup ventures. And this is $26 billion in the United States and Canada, with 340,000 angel investors. So OECD statistics show that 1.2% of entrepreneurs, startups are able to reach angel money. And one entrepreneur in every 10 invested entrepreneurs are able to create a success story. Yeah. Success story means an exit with minimum 20 multipliers. I want to stop here. I think you want to continue. I complete.
Even as you do that, you have been to emerging markets, and this country is part of that emerging market. What kind of transition would you recommend for institutions, the source of the knowledge, so that they're effective in preparing their students, the startup companies, and also the academics who play a very important role in that ecosystem to bridge the gap that you have talked about?
Dear Professor, I think there's a big responsibility now for the academia, for universities. Why? Let's assume that you are establishing an airline company and you are delivering education to flight attendants, to passenger fares and ticketing staff, to dangerous goods stuff, etc., etc. And you have excellent flight attendants, excellent ground staff, educated, well-trained, and you have excellent educators for them. But you don't have any education for pilots. I think this is a big problem, isn't it? So, unfortunately, the main challenging issue of emerging economies is they have education through their curriculums at the universities, online, through the private courses, etc., for entrepreneurs, for startup funders, etc. But they don't have any education for investors. Okay. So this challenging issue is, as a matter of fact, an important issue, because at the end of the day, even you have great entrepreneurs, excellent pitchings, excellent business, and if there is no investor in the game, then what is the meaning of all these investments in these people? So WIBEF has a financial inclusion program for higher education, and we are going to sign a letter of intention immediately after this meeting with Kenya Innovation Agency, and invite all universities to consider delivering education for investors, which will also open the way for co-investment structures for global investors.
Okay.
So I want to stop here, and I will tell more. Yeah.
And Emily, you sit on the other side. You are producing the graduates, the startups, the ideas, and all that. And you have had the challenges that are there in trying to get that ecosystem operating effectively.
Yes.
What do you think are the gaps that we should address?
Thank you so much. One point that I get here is what I will call the traditions and the vocabularies within which we operate as universities. You know, there's the traditional universities mandate, and I'm seeing that there is an evolution of sorts that we must expand the university's mandate so that it's not just perhaps the definition of teaching and learning. What are we going to teach? Who are we training? Who are we going to get out? But when I talk of traditions, I'm just asking myself, how do we normally transact our businesses? That is the vocabulary. That's what I mean by the vocabulary. Especially for the Kenyan University, where we have all the regulators' expectations. And sometimes by the time you look at all these, you're a bit late in responding to what the industry is asking for. By the time you subscribe to, by the time you fulfill all those demands or all the requirements, you do not have sufficient scope to work fast enough to incorporate what the industry is asking you for. But the other thing between the academy and the industry is trust. And usually the connections start with humans, two individuals, and then the rest of the company comes in. But it takes time to build that trust. And as our institutions are, we don't sit in the same office forever. And sometimes when the individuals who started that conversation are no longer in those positions, what happens? We might have to start all over again. So I think a question that comes is, as an institution, when I invest heavily into a project, what's in it for me? What will I get? Will I be shortchanged? Especially if you feel that the other party has an upper hand. And I don't know how it is with the universities who already have strong linkages with industry. I don't know if you feel that you have the stronger hand than the industry, or if it is the other way around. In our circumstances, the person with the money usually has the upper hand. So do we feel equal as partners in these ventures? And relationships require a level of vulnerability. A question that we ask ourselves is this a risk that I'm willing to take? Is the industry willing to invest into this activity with this institution? Do they think they'll get their money back? That is the second question. But then there's also perhaps the mismatch between our visions and our missions. The university's mission and vision, the industry's mission and vision. What do you want? What exactly are you doing? And again, what's in it for me? When an activity fulfills the objectives of both, then I think such an activity would succeed. But if somebody is not very sure, if one of the entities is not very sure, it might take a little time to sell your vision to them. I think the issue of resources has already been mentioned. And let me start with the time resource, the researcher's time. Because the university professor, if we look at the usual university's mandate, is expected to do the teaching and learning, and then there's the research. I'm not too sure that we have purely research universities in Kenya yet. So how much time is my professor going to spend on research without, losing out on any other thing? Because it takes time to work out a very good proposal and to work out the procedures. And that goes...
Yeah, so I think we take your points, a couple of things that you have raised there about how the universities see themselves. I would like to bring online Dr. Kelly. Dr. Kelly. And I believe she's online. I can't see the screen from here.
Yeah, I'm online. I can hear you. Can hear you.
Yeah. So you have had the perspective from the universities and the issue of trust. And we know Oxford, we know AstraZeneca at Oxford and the great work that they did on the COVID-19 vaccine. And obviously, you have a very good relationship with the university. Now, I would like to ask you to tell us how you've built that partnership so that the university feels that they are part of the team that works on projects, and maybe the kind of contract arrangements that you have with the University of Oxford and other universities that you have partnership with. And you can also explain how you initiate those partnerships. I'm sure that your partnership extends beyond University of Oxford and you have partnership with other institutions. How would you do that if, for example, you are to extend it to universities in Kenya? Welcome, Dr. Kerry.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. And I think there's been some really great points made from some of the previous panelists. So for the University of Oxford, I think that was a very high-profile kind of open innovation collaboration, really. And it came from a long-standing relationship that had been built between some of the senior leaders at AstraZeneca and some of the kind of top-level academics at Oxford. And it was really just an opportunity that came out of, the awfulness of the pandemic and how we needed to work together and move very quickly on trying to move forward with the vaccine. And I don't know the details of that because that was a very kind of high-level strategic business development opportunity. But where I sit within AstraZeneca, this is kind of what we do every day. So our Open Innovation Programme is very much targeted towards working with academics across the globe, based principally on the quality of science. And I think the way that we've worked is we offer access to our molecules and our screening libraries, and we try and crowdsource solutions from across the globe. And what we're trying to do really is accept that we don't know everything within AstraZeneca. There's lots of new innovations that are required to really push and advance science forward. And the only way that we can eloquently do that is by partnering. And so the way that we work is a lot of the molecules that we offer those as an in-kind contribution to our collaborators, and the IP and the data that's generated belongs to the university or the collaborator that's generated that. And then AstraZeneca has a right to license that back if that's kind of something that's principally important to some of our pipeline projects. So what we're trying to do, and trust is really important, and it's already been mentioned, there was always this kind of idea that Big Pharma were trying to take people's ideas, they would bring them in, and they would cut you out, and they would take the project forward. And I think that mindset is changing a lot now. And so we're not trying